The political landscape in the UK is rapidly shifting, and those at the helm of power, namely Sir Keir Starmer, are making bold and controversial decisions that could define the nation's future. Whether it's navigating the complex geopolitical terrain of the ongoing war in Ukraine, or dealing with contentious domestic policy issues like tax reforms and farmers' rights, Starmer's leadership is being tested in ways that demand scrutiny. Make no mistake, his commitment to international security and domestic economic challenges isn't just ambitious, it's a high-wire act that could end in disaster or define a new era of governance. Starmer's stance on Ukraine has become a defining feature of his leadership. As tensions with Russia escalate, the UK, under Starmer, is pushing for an unwavering commitment to Ukraine's defense. He has taken a firm line, asserting that the US, in particular, must not waver in its support for Ukraine. According to Starmer, without a robust security guarantee from the US, Russia would simply take advantage of any perceived weakness. This isn't just about military strategy, it's a matter of European stability. A weaker commitment from the US could destabilize the continent for generations to come. While the idea of Europe standing alone without American backup seems fanciful to some, Starmer is clear: Europe must rise to the occasion. However, this isn't merely about sending a message, it's about sending real resources. Starmer's proposal to send British troops as part of an international peacekeeping effort, should the situation escalate, shows a shift from the UK's traditionally cautious approach. Yet, this comes with a significant price tag. For all his conviction, Starmer faces the grim reality of balancing heightened defence commitments with a pressing need for domestic investment. The UK is already grappling with soaring healthcare costs, underfunded schools, and public services stretched to their breaking point. The commitment to increasing defence spending at a time when other sectors are struggling raises the question, where will the funds come from? Raising taxes is off the table. Starmer has made it clear that Labour's manifesto forbids any increase in VAT, national insurance, or income tax. Yet, this is precisely the kind of political promise that stifles creativity in finding solutions to real problems. Starmer is cornered, caught between the need for security and the need to protect vulnerable public services. Tax hikes are politically toxic, but so are severe cuts to services that the public relies on. There's no easy fix here, only a painful reckoning about what matters more, international security or the well-being of domestic citizens. The dilemma is inescapable. It is this very challenge that underscores the failure of traditional political tactics. Governments simply can't operate in a bubble anymore. The need for defense must be weighed against the equally important need to maintain domestic infrastructure and welfare programs. There's a fine line between necessary military expenditure and an overblown defense budget that robs citizens of their essential services. Some may argue that security should come first, but let's not fool ourselves. A nation with no healthcare, no education, no public services is a nation at risk, not just from foreign threats, but from internal collapse. Starmer's aggressive defense of Ukraine is commendable, but it can't come at the cost of basic services that British citizens depend on. Without strategic balance, these foreign commitments will only breed domestic discontent. This problem doesn't just stop with international affairs. Take, for instance, the recent clash between the Labour government and British farmers. Labour, particularly under Starmer's leadership, is pushing ahead with tax reforms that directly threaten family-run farms, a cornerstone of the UK's agricultural economy. The National Farmers Union, NFU, is growing frustrated, feeling increasingly unheard by a government more fixated on appeasing international partners than protecting the livelihoods of its citizens. Recent Treasury meetings only highlighted this disconnect, where farming representatives felt their concerns were dismissed with a callousness that's hard to ignore. In one meeting, a Treasury official reportedly dismissed the concerns of farmers with an offhand comment, signaling that this wasn't a priority for the government. The refusal to even consider alternatives to the proposed inheritance tax changes is not just insensitive, it's irresponsible. These are not just abstract economic concerns. They are about real people, real families who have dedicated generations to farming and now face the prospect of losing their businesses over policies that don't reflect the reality of life on the land. For Starmer to disregard these concerns is a dangerous gamble. It sends a message that the government is willing to prioritize its own political promises over the very people who put food on the table. And let's be clear, this isn't just about tax policy. It's about the survival of an entire way of life, a way of life that contributes not only to the economy but to national food security. Labour's failure to address these concerns is not just an economic misstep, it is a betrayal of rural Britain. It's time for politicians like Starmer to stop pretending that they can make bold, international commitments without considering the human cost at home. If the UK is to remain a beacon of democracy and a force for good on the world stage, it must first take care of its own people. The failure to balance domestic priorities with international ambitions will lead to widespread disillusionment among voters. Starmer's political calculus has reached a critical juncture. Either he begins to listen to the people of this country, particularly those in rural communities who feel abandoned, or he risks alienating a large and vital part of the electorate. In conclusion, Starmer's leadership is at a crossroads. His strong stance on international issues like Ukraine cannot come at the cost of domestic stability. He faces mounting pressure on both fronts, and how he responds will define his legacy. The British people need to see action that reflects their concerns, not just rhetoric about global security. If Starmer cannot find a way to deliver on both fronts, his political future and the future of the country will be uncertain at best.